Well, welcome everybody. My name is Chris Hogan. I am the Vice President of our Enterprise Security Architecture Group here at Mastercard, and want to welcome you to a little bit of a presentation to talk today about harnessing the power of zero trust in AI and FinTech cybersecurity. A little bit of background about myself before I jump in here. I've been at Mastercard for about 12 years. It's been quite a journey as I've watched what's happened in the fintech industry here, specifically in cybersecurity, with Mastercard being a pretty big player in that space. But I've had a kind of non-traditional journey to get to where I am. So over the last almost 30 years, I've seen a lot of technology maturity, a lot of things that we are doing that I never thought would be possible. And here I am, almost 30 years later, just in the middle of it, and really speaking to all of you to just share my knowledge, share my experience, share my journey, and hopefully you can kind of come away from here with a few nuggets to take back to your organization, especially on the cusp of this AI explosion that we had in the previous year. So looking forward to really digging in a little bit and giving you guys some nuggets to take back to your shop and hopefully do some good with. So why don't we go ahead and jump in here? So I got a little bit of an agenda for you today. So we'll start by just taking a step back and looking at the landscape of cybersecurity in the fintech industry. A lot has happened in the past year. A lot more has happened over the past 5 years. So we'll just kind of take a pause and look at how things are today and where some of those challenges are. Then we'll talk a little bit about zero trust. It's a very familiar concept to most cybersecurity professionals now, but it's always good to kind of revisit and look at some of what expectations are there when you are a zero trust organization. And then obviously AI and cybersecurity, right? Like cybersecurity, AI, merging those two together, what do you get? You get something awesome. So we're going to talk a little bit about the value that AI can bring to our cybersecurity shops. And then winning with that dynamic defense. So what happens when you bring AI and you bring zero trust to the cybersecurity table? Hopefully you get a little bit of magic there. So we'll talk about that. And then we'll jump into a couple of use cases that could potentially be beneficial to your organizations. I know that there are applications, there are solutions that are out there today that are actually doing these things. And so let's take a look at how that could be implemented and what those benefits are. And then the benefits for fintech. So when you merge those two concepts and technologies together, what do you get? Hopefully something good, hopefully something that's going to benefit our organizations and keep us much more safe and lower risk for the business. And then finally, we'll end on some call to action. So where do we go from here? What do we do? Would love to kind of give you all a few things to take back to your shops, and hopefully they add value to your organization, because they certainly have added value to me. And with that, why don't we go ahead and take a start and jump in. And so who is this talk for as we talk about the cybersecurity landscape in fintech? Well, high-level managers that have that relationship with the business, but they also have that relationship with the technology teams. We as cybersecurity professionals have to be able to kind of speak both languages. So this presentation really is not too technical, but high enough level for you to be able to extract some things that will help you take back to your business or take back to your technology teams to hopefully, if they're not already, implement into some sort of strategy. What should you expect to hear? Well, I don't have all the answers, but what I will provide is some experience and some of the things that I've seen over the past several months, past several years that are kind of indicators of what's to come. And so hopefully, drawing on that experience, I can give you some advice and some guidance on how you should position yourselves, especially your cybersecurity shops, with this new technology and AI and kind of this new framework or seasoned framework for zero trust. And then why do you need to hear this? It's really important because AI is not stopping. The train is moving, and us cybersecurity professionals are doing what we can to keep up with that train. And so it's important for us to have this dialogue often. We're still learning every day. Every day the headlines are changing, so cybersecurity teams are having to really keep up. And so the more that we can talk together and have these conversations about what's working and what's not, I think the better off we'll be back to our businesses and our organizations and providing that value and helping to reduce risk. All right, so here we go. The cybersecurity landscape in fintech. Well, everything is digital, right? You've got the payment space, which your banks, your financial services, everything is becoming more digital. You've got your banking on your mobile, digital payments. You can pay your friends with all types of different mobile solutions these days. And then there's still e-commerce, where you've got websites. Perfect example. My wife just stood up her brand new website to sell artwork, and so we're all digital now. And all of that is built on top of technology that has been around for a while. Lots of principles, lots of frameworks that we've adopted over the years to support these solutions. However, there's some flaws. And that's where we are today as we look at the landscape in fintech and the cybersecurity around it. First of all, this technology, these servers that sit maybe in the cloud or they sit on-prem, they store our private information, PII, PHI, payment card data. It's not a bad thing that they're storing it, but it's there. It's out there. And so it's something that we have to think about, whereas maybe 20 and 30 years ago, we weren't so concerned about what was sitting where. Third-party services. So gone are the days where organizations are just always custom building solutions for their business. There are a lot of organizations out there, small startups, that can do a lot of that for us. And so what we're seeing is, in some of the startup technology, it's being quick to market. However, you don't know what you're getting sometimes within those packages and those solutions that they're offering to you. So, for example, you have a startup over here that can offer you this little component that you plug into your mobile application, but do you really know what's going on behind the scenes in that application? What software components are they using? Are they using open source? Are they using proprietary things? Are they using vulnerable software? And so we really have to kind of take a step back and understand, on this technology that's running these financial services, these digital payments, the e-commerce websites, what is actually under there? What's vulnerable? What's not? Is it safe for us to use? So we have to ask those questions as cybersecurity professionals with the way that we are today. And then there's always humans and their poor cyber hygiene, right? Like passwords, writing them down on notebooks and notepads. It's still a thing today. Poor configuration management on anything, whether it's a mobile device or a server, that's still a thing today. And so with humans in the loop, still in this technology footprint that we have for these solutions, we always have to account for the mistake that the human may make. And so it's really important as cybersecurity professionals to think about those things in today's day and age. And so that's where we are today. And so how do we leverage some of this newer technology to modernize the way we think about cybersecurity and how we can secure this ecosystem that we've created that support our financial services, digital payments, and e-commerce? And so we're going to take a look at some of those concepts today. And hopefully you can learn something, take back to your shop, and make the world a better place. So zero trust. If you're a cybersecurity professional, I guarantee you've heard of this. If you haven't, don't know where you've been, but it's been a thing for a little bit now. Maybe not as long as cloud, but certainly it's in the boardrooms, it's among the C-suite. People are talking about zero trust still, and it's just an important concept for us as cybersecurity experts to not only learn ourselves, but to be able to explain to our business partners, our architects, our engineers, anyone that will listen, because this is the future. This is the way that we're going to modernize our technology stack to help reduce that risk of the adversary that's out there to take advantage of it. And so real quick, at a high level, zero trust, it's more of a concept. It's not a product. It's not something that you're just going to install and then walk away. It is a way of life. And for many organizations, it is a multi-year journey to continue to implement some of these concepts and these frameworks that support zero trust. And for example, continuous validation. That's a primary tenet of zero trust is never trust, always verify. And so as you have an identity that enters into your ecosystem, whether it's your corporate network or your customer network, you always want to check, and you always want to validate who that person is or who that service is as it traverses through your network. How much you want to validate, how continuous that validation is, it's totally up to you and your organization. But the fact is, it's an important thing for you to start to implement as you're laying down new infrastructure and new technology. Microsegmentation, not necessarily a new concept, but definitely something that is a requirement for zero trust maturity. And that's reducing your attack surface. So you've got many networks in your organization, some of which could be reached just by being on the network. And so the concept of microsegmentation is you want to reduce that attack surface so that if an adversary happens to get into one place of your network, that's all that they see. They don't see everything else over here. And so it's really important for microsegmentation to ensure that you're taking each application or each service and looking at what they talk to, looking at what they do, and really narrowing down its reach so that you've got that small, that tight attack surface that if you are in fact compromised or if there is an intrusion, the attacker just has a very small area that is actually exposed. Just-in-time access. It's another concept, not necessarily new, but very difficult to implement in large organizations because access sprawl. Sometimes you have people that just have access to many things because that's part of their job, whether it's just there's not enough capacity around to delegate responsibilities, or it's just been access sprawl over the years where people gain access from different parts of the organization and it never really goes away. The concept of just-in-time access is if you do have access to all these different things, you only get it when you need it. It doesn't make sense to keep access on something continuously, leaving that vulnerable and leaving that as an opportunity for the adversary to get a hold of those credentials or get a hold of that access and do something nefarious. And then finally, data mapping or data protection and data protection. It's really important to understand your data because that's really at the core of what we're trying to do and trying to protect is your data and your assets. So knowing what your data is and knowing where your data is extremely important when we talk about zero trust. It's a foundational concept. It kind of sits on the bottom of everything else. So having your data inventory, having your data classification and having your data tagging, and then being able to protect that data wherever it goes on the network. So that's an important concept, probably one of the most important concepts of zero trust, and probably one of the most difficult as well, because as organizations, we all collect data. Where do we store it? How do we store it? Where does it go? Where does it flow? Those are all important things that you as cybersecurity experts should learn and should understand as you navigate through this zero trust journey. So zero trust, again, not a necessarily new concept, but something that is starting to become very familiar with cybersecurity professionals, and hopefully something that you and your organizations are already in the process of looking at today and even implementing. Next, we'll talk a little bit about AI in cybersecurity. So now you've been on your zero trust journey, you're doing all the things with microsegmentation, you're starting to get a handle on identities and looking at your data, and then enters in AI. What an explosion last year. ChatGPT, all I was hearing about last year was ChatGPT. What you may not be hearing so much about is all the work that some of these organizations are doing behind the scenes to their products and services to implement concepts and technology that run ChatGPT, like your models, your LLMs, into their own products and services. And what that gives us is the same capabilities that these adversaries now have access to with LLMs like OpenAI's ChatGPT. They're giving us the opportunity to take the same technology and layer it in with the tools that we use today in cybersecurity. So for example, automated detection and response. Wouldn't it be cool if you've got a tool that already sits on your network and learns the different type of network activity that hits your network, and be able to decipher what's bad and what's good? It's a very simplistic example, but it's a very real example. SOCs are often overrun with alert fatigue. And wouldn't it be great to have some kind of AI buddy that sits there right next to your SOC analyst and can call out, hey, this looks bad. This is an adversary. You need to go look at this. And not just detecting, but actually responding to something. So rather than pulling that host off of the network, maybe that AI that's in that tool is smart enough to be able to go and kill the service or kill the process that's running that could be nefarious. And so those are the types of things that our vendors and our suppliers in the cybersecurity space are starting to implement into their products. And it will start to increase over the next couple of years as well. So talk to your partners, talk to your technologists, see what's out there today, see what's coming tomorrow, and think about how it could add value to your own cybersecurity shops in the future. Cybersecurity expert systems. So security architecture, the space that I sit in, we are always looking at frameworks and standards and policies as the business comes to us with their solutions and their business problems. We spend a lot of time looking through those standards and policies and matching that up with the design that they bring to us. How great would it be to have a little chat GPT on the side to ask a question about maybe a password length, or ask a question about ports that are allowed, so that an analyst doesn't have to go and actually look up what it actually says in the standard. It'd be great. It'd be more efficient, it'd be quicker. Take that a step further, and maybe we can take those policies and standards and actually dump them into a pipeline. So that way, as solutions are brought up to us for review, our security requirements are overlaid right on top of those solutions, so that the AI is doing the work, and then maybe the analyst or the architect can come in and do a spot check, or come in and validate maybe that last 20%, or a mix and match of things. But the point is being able to leverage AI to assist us in a way, to be more efficient, to maybe catch something that an analyst or an architect wouldn't have caught before. Adversarial emulation. So how cool would it be to mirror what an attacker would do? We've got red teaming already, right? So why not just have a AI red team that sits out on your network and maybe emulates different attacks that it sees throughout the course of a week, day, month, or year? Red teams are already leveraging some of these AI capabilities. Taking it a step further, we could potentially just have a dedicated AI red team, not of humans, but of bots or computers that once a quarter or once a year, they go out and they take all of the things that they learn about your network and actually go emulate some of those attack patterns that they've seen. Maybe test your SOC, maybe test your defenses, and help you identify some of those weaknesses in your defenses, and go back and maybe redesign, re-architect, or layer in some additional controls to help you against those specific attacks. And then you've got secure coding assistants. So these are the things that have been hitting the market recently. They call them co-pilots. They're there to assist developers in actually developing their code for products. Well, you take that a step further and you throw on a security layer on top of that, and now you've got a coding assistant that can actually look for vulnerabilities and flaws in that code. And even still, making sure that that developer is coding in a way that is sound from a security perspective. And so we're going to see an explosion, I think, of usage of these coding assistant tools over the next few years. And I think it'll lead to less risky, less vulnerable, and more efficient coding from our developers. So all great things to look forward to, and all good things that AI brings to cybersecurity. And so now you've got AI, you've got zero trust. How do we merge these together to build a dynamic and winning defense? Well, remember the concept of just-in-time access we talked about with zero trust? We can kind of containerize that into adaptive access, giving access to the right data, the right assets at the right time. With AI, with the intelligence that you get from the data, user behavior, and network activity, uh, AI is smart enough to be able to know whether or not this particular access is good or this particular access is bad. And rather than waiting on a review or an access review or some sort of request for access, AI is intelligent enough to go in and get that access to you right away. Regulatory compliance. So again, leveraging AI to be smart enough to uh, give you the capabilities to demonstrate to auditors or regulators how access is only given when certain conditions are met, and being able to run reports and being able to dynamic or be able to show on the fly how access is provisioned in your network and how AI is used to manage that access, I think is a great thing. I think it cuts down on all the manual tasking that we have with our cybersecurity analysts and experts today, our access experts especially, and puts the onus on the computers to actually do some of that work. And then risk awareness. Over time, large organizations, I'm sure, have accumulated pockets of access sprawl. And so leveraging AI and leveraging zero trust enables you to minimize those pockets and be able to identify where that risk is. When you have those large pockets of access sprawl, you don't know where your risk is. Everybody has access. If you start looking at a more dynamic posture, real-time posture, then you know exactly where your risk is every moment of the day, every second of the day. And so adopting that adaptive access mentality with AI and zero trust will definitely help cut down on some of that risk. Resilience. This is a big topic in the industry right now. Whether it's network resilience or system resilience, everybody wants to know, are their systems going to be up? Are their systems going to be impacted if the adversary happens to do something bad? The answer is it depends. How resilient is your network? With AI and zero trust working together, you can work to get some of that resilience built in. In fact, there is a function within zero trust under the network pillar that calls for network resilience. There's a function in zero trust under the data pillar to call for data availability. And so bringing AI together with zero trust helps organizations move to an adaptive network protection posture by enabling real-time intelligence through their network to understand where there might be trouble, and then being able to switch to a different network or switch to a different connection to keep your network resilient. Self-healing. Again, where your network is able to identify where there's trouble, whether it's performance or whether it's a potential attack, and being able to recover from that. And that could be by simply adding a farm of VMs or containers and spinning those up to help balance the load. Or that could be rebuilding a machine on the fly that hosts an application for your business. But all of that being run by AI and having that intelligence to know when something's wrong, all driven by data, which again, resilience, understanding where your data is a first step in making sure that your data is resilient. If you don't know where it is, it's hard to be able to recover if something happens. And so bringing the concept of resilience in with AI and zero trust is another way that you can win with this defense in your organization by leveraging those two concepts in technology. And then intelligent data controls. As I mentioned before, it's all about the data. That's what we're talking about here. And so being able to automate your data flows as data comes into your network, whether it's customer or user data, you're able to automate the paths that it takes and make intelligent decisions about who should have access to that data or where that data should be going on your network or how it should even be protected. Adaptive classification, perfect example. Is everything in your organization confidential, highly confidential, public? You don't know. It could be a combination of all three at any given point. So having that artificial intelligence that sits on your network to be able to look at something and say, oh, this looks like it's highly confidential. We're going to make sure that it's encrypted. Or this looks like it's public. We're going to push it over here on this particular page. And so that's another benefit that AI kind of brings to the picture but it's also a zero trust function to be able to know where your data is, know where your data flows, know how to classify your data when it hits your network. And then dynamic labeling, just another way to track and understand and identify what your data is and where it is and what it should be doing on your network. So all these concepts, pulling everything together, building a dynamic defense using the zero trust principles and the functions that already are defined today, along with new AI technologies that are advancing every day in the vendors and suppliers that you already use. And so how do we put all of this together? What are some real world examples that are out there today, potentially, that actually use that AI and zero trust together to provide benefit to the customer, to the business? Just think about your payment platforms, your mobile payment platforms. There are plenty of them out there today. I'm pretty sure all of you or most of you use one of them. These platforms have to analyze billions, millions, billions of transactions every day. Think about the amount of transactions that come into these payment platforms every day. How do the systems handle understanding what's fraudulent and what's not? And so being able to integrate some type of AI technology into that back end to know and be able to pick out a fraudulent transaction or some type of anomaly is extremely important in keeping that resilience and keeping that customer faith in the product. And so I envision a world where these mobile platforms or mobile payment platforms are leveraging some AI on the back end, whether it's custom or whether it's through a vendor that already exists, and layering in some of that zero trust architecture where you've got some of the real time and continuous validation, being able to identify that fraud directly real time to the customer. Happens to me personally. I've got a banking account here locally that if it sees a transaction of a certain amount or in a certain location, I'll get a notification on my phone right away. It happens instantaneously. And so companies are already doing this today. And I think what you'll see is an increase of that in different payment platforms as we continue to mature in AI technologies and zero trust. Reducing cost for financial institutions. So that's a benefit to being able to have some of that real-time detection mature, because now you're cutting down on calls to the call center. You're cutting down on costs it takes for the financial institution to potentially charge back that fraudulent charge. So there's a lot of benefits financially for an organization to move to this kind of posture as well. And then again, enhance customer service, because now you've got AI on the back end able to analyze some of that data, provide that maybe to a call center agent, enhance that customer service experience. Another use case out there, think about the investment applications. There are tons of them that are out there. I won't mention any, but they're very important in our ecosystem today. When you talk about the fintech industry, everybody uses them. Everybody trades on them. What's most important about these applications are the trust that the users are actually putting in them. You're putting in your hard-earned money to trade crypto or to trade currency. And so there is an expectation of trust that a customer has when using these applications. And so adopting these zero trust principles and layering in the AI on top of that, where you're continuously evaluating that behavior, is going to be a benefit for your customer, because it's going to boost your customer's confidence in those platforms. You're going to walk away as a customer with a level of confidence, because you know that transaction, that trade that you just made is going to be verified and validated on the back end. Compliance makes compliance a lot easier when you've got continuous validation going on. So whether it's a regulator or an auditor coming behind and looking at your systems and how they handle transactions, when you can say, hey, I've got a zero trust architecture, I've got AI who is continuously looking at this data that's coming in, helps give a level of comfort to the auditor or the regulator, knowing that you're not just letting transactions go through. You actually have some sort of validation method to determine whether it's fraudulent, whether it's bad, whether it's even a necessary transaction on your system. And then improve decision making. So as a business, being able to get this real-time data that Zero Trust requires and that AI can take advantage of to make better decisions about your application, whether or not you need to make enhancements for a customer who uses the application in this way or trades certain things in that way. And so leveraging that data by AI is definitely going to be a benefit in some of these investment applications that exist today. So benefits for the whole fintech industry. When we talk about AI and Zero Trust, easily you can throw a reduction of risk out there, right? Zero Trust architecture is designed to reduce risk. It's designed to reduce attack surfaces and make security simple and modern for how we operate today. And so by having AI-driven threat detection and response, you're making things more efficient. You're reducing the time, the amount of time that a threat could be on a network, therefore reducing risk. It's proactive risk management as well. So as you design an application or as you design a network or you put technology out there, you're doing it in a way that automatically reduces risk, whether it's least privilege principle or just-in-time access or, again, inventorying your data. That's all done to reduce the risk that may exist today on the platforms that are driving our financial services, our mobile payments, and our e-commerce systems. Streamline compliance. Again, being able to show a regulator or show an auditor that this process is sound because we've got some sort or some level of AI that's been developed to help automate this process where there's not a human in the loop. And then it's backed by Zero Trust principles that we implemented into our network. And being able to hand that diagram or being able to hand that auditor a process that shows that definitely helps in the compliance processes that many businesses have to take on. And then continuous monitoring. So as many of you know in your organizations, compliance just isn't a one-time thing. It should be a continuous thing. And so being able to have AI out there to continuously validate whether a system is configured a certain way, continuously report on activity that it sees as maybe not in compliance with a particular standard that you have for your organization. Being able to have that on a continuous loop 24/7 can help your cybersecurity shop minimize risk and streamline that compliance. And then foundation of trust, being able to demonstrate that you are securing your customer data via these Zero Trust principles and providing reliable services also with these Zero Trust principles is really a benefit that you'll start to see in the fintech industry. A whole different dynamic when it comes to how we look at security when we start to leverage AI and then layer in Zero Trust on top of that. Historically, security has been about that perimeter defense and keep everybody outside the castle and inside the castle is good. But we have to modernize. We have to change the way that we think about these things. And so Zero Trust will establish that foundation of trust for your business and for your customers by implementing these principles, especially being able to leverage AI. It's going to definitely enhance the way that you do security. And so as we wrap up today, what's the call to action? How do we do this? If we haven't started this journey already, where do we start? Chris, tell us, how do you do it at Mastercard, or where can we go to get more resources to really pull this off, or can we really pull this off? Don't have all the answers, but I can kind of give you some tips here, things to think about, things to take back to your organization as we wrap up here. First and foremost, you got to start small. Zero Trust alone is a journey. It's not going to be something that happens overnight. You're going to need a lot of support, especially if you have a large organization. So the easiest way to bring in Zero Trust and then start to sprinkle in AI is to start small. Maybe it's one application. Maybe it's one service that you offer as an organization. Anything that you can do to kind of reduce the scope of this journey will help not only you as a cybersecurity professional or a manager or whoever you are to the business as it relates to cybersecurity, but it will just give you a little bit of confidence to deliver something that is transformative and that will provide value. So again, even if it's just a small service, take those zero trust principles, look at what AI is doing, take a year or 6 months or whatever your project cycle looks like, start small, and then show the value that you're able to add by taking these concepts and layering them into your solutions. Involve stakeholders. So zero trust, as I mentioned before, it's definitely a journey. You're going to have to get support from everywhere, whether it's your data privacy team, your governance teams, your technology teams, your legal teams. You're going to need support from everywhere. So talk about this early and often. Go on road shows talking about zero trust and how you can start to leverage AI to enhance some of these concepts that you're learning. Get their buy-in. Tell a story. Google, just some of these success stories that we've seen lately as companies have started to modernize their technology with zero trust and AI. And then clear communication. You have to be clear about how you're positioning your organization, your cybersecurity shops with zero trust and with AI. Not everybody is going to be as savvy when it comes to technology, so you may have to break terms down a little bit differently depending on the audience and the group that you're getting in front of. But if you clearly communicate what it is you're trying to do and clearly communicate the expectation of the value that you're going to get by doing this, you'll have a smoother path getting that buy-in, getting that support to actually get some things done. It's a tall order. Cybersecurity is hard, and especially when you're talking about new technology. It's cool, it's exciting, it's going to provide value. But as you may know in business, that people want to see results now, and sometimes in cybersecurity, it takes time. So you have to be patient. You have to be resilient. But overall, I think you continue to learn. And that's why we're having this conversation here today. I don't have all the answers. I'm still learning every day myself. Hopefully, all of you have taken something from this presentation and are learning as well. Would love to connect with any of you and talk more in depth about zero trust or AI. So I am going to leave things there for now. I've enjoyed having this conversation with you. My LinkedIn contact information is there. Happy to hear from any one of you, have a conversation about AI, zero trust, cybersecurity. I really want to thank you for the time that you spent with me today and hope to see some of you all soon in the future. Thank you so much.